All right, everyone, welcome. We have the Clayton Thomas here on the podcast. Thanks for coming, Clayton.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a lovely Thursday.
It absolutely is. I'm a little bit under the weather. I have been trying to kick this sinus infection for like 2 weeks, and it's not happening. And I'm very healthy overall, but it's despite being healthy, it doesn't mean that you're safe.
No, it's really sign of the times because of what's gone on the last 3 years and what's happening to all different kinds of people. Healthy people are being exposed to things that we've never been exposed to before, and our bodies are having to adapt to a different environment. And with that continually new exposure, we're seeing additional weaknesses pop up, and people that think they're healthy, these different components are becoming things that stick around longer. So you've got to do some additional steps now to work on cleaning up the mess, giving your body the tools it needs to battle this environment. The same way that we look at what's going on politically and socially, and those aspects are impacting everything that goes on and internally. And it's been an interesting journey the last 3 years. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so Root, people can, first of all, where can people find Root?
So you can go to therootbrands.com and search product information. I think we'll have a username that can be shared with Minds for the Minds community. But you can go to our website. You can shop, but you have to have a referral code in order to become a customer. Because one of the things that was really important when I was creating the ecosystem that we built and we launched on February 2nd of 2020, the best time to ever start a new business was the beginning of COVID, apparently.
Yeah.
But we understood that we had products that were going to create outcomes that the industry had never seen before. But if the world was going to change, that means commerce had to change as well. And as a business, the way that you look at value creation was something that was really important to me, because your greatest asset is your customer base, right? No matter what kind of business you have, right? It could be Netflix, it could be social media platforms, it could be a mom and pop shop, in a small town, and it's your customer base that creates your vitality. Now, if you take really good care of your customers, it's in our nature to just tell our friends about whatever experience we've had. Companies typically don't share that value, though. So we created a mechanism that would reward people for doing that behavior, and have watched it take off. So now you've got the opportunity to be rewarded for the value you create, and blending that in society. So we're seeing solutions and opportunity converge at the same time.
That's really fascinating. So you need a referral code to even buy the product at all. So that basically creates this constraint, but also this supercharger for the network.
Yeah. It's like having a club, right? And you've got the velvet rope. Everybody wants to get inside the velvet rope, and usually you have to know somebody, and you got to pay the guy at the door. So we took that concept, and knowing that everybody's connected, right? And the value proposition then becomes, how did you find out about us? How did you hear about us? So everybody has a username and a code. So when you're sharing with your friends, you give them that code, and they enter that, so they know where they came from, and then we're able to algorithmically track all of that. Much like Minds is doing to reward people, with a crypto standpoint for activity and engagement. The same way goes on our side of understanding that all of our consumers are going to come from our existing customer base, right?
Yes.
Because it's our customers that are having the experiences and sharing, and it's how you build that value proposition for them, and knowing that the greatest investment you're ever going to make as a business owner is actually in your customers. The more value you provide,
I'm fascinated. Yeah, it's there's definitely similarities there, and I think that creating network effects from the people using the product is the absolute most obvious thing. But some oftentimes businesses just totally space on that.
Yeah, well, and the socials, as they've been constructed, right, with the mess that they are, and the amount of data that they're gathering and collecting, and then how they're using that, has been the problem. And companies, you can sell shit on the internet, if you spend the right
Literally.
amount of ads, literally, absolutely. And you if you spend money on ads, you're going to have some people that will suck into the ad and buy it. And it's inauthentic. It's not a value proposition that we really saw humanity benefiting from going forward, right?
Right.
And I think it was a lot with what you guys were doing with Minds. The same thing is, you see a broken system, and great, how do we do this better? How do we change? How do we improve? How do we move forward? Because we're not going back. And it was on my side wanting to create a mechanism that not only creates an opportunity for our community, but also kind of lays the groundwork for how businesses should behave going forward. That if consumers begin to understand that, look, this is possible, it's not multi-level marketing scams and all of that stuff. It's just, look, if I'm going to take my advertising revenue, I can pick whatever amount of money I'm going to spend on advertising, but instead of putting it into a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, all of these other social platforms, even SEO, I'm just going to reverse that and say, look, if you like our stuff and you buy it and you share your code and we track it, we'll pay you because you're creating the value. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
we see how a circular economy becomes a lot more supportive than just people sucking all the money out of us. And we get to
Yep.
change a little bit.
And, I think that nuance with regards to referral systems, affiliate programs, versus pyramid and multi-level is like, there's a balance, and there's actually a reason that, affiliate program, I mean, Amazon, like, affiliate programs are, undeniably valuable. The question is, what is the structure that maximally rewards the users and the customers? And sometimes people just don't go far enough so that the users and customers can actually get the value. Like, obviously you need a real product, but
Yes.
yes. So curious your thoughts on that.
No, you hit on the key thing, because the value, and we see this in the social influence space, right? With influencers, and it's important to understand that every single person on this planet is of influence. And now, because of how socials have connected us all, we're no longer 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. We're 6 degrees from 6 to 8 billion people. And when you understand that, and the way that marketing has been done prior with affiliate models is, we'll give you a code. If you sell products to your people, we'll pay you. The companies know that as soon as they tap into that network of consumers, they'll pay for that, because they know the secondary mechanism is, if those people have a good experience, they're not going to share the code. They're just going to tell their friends what they bought. And the people, those additional customers, are going to come from the consumers doing what we do naturally and just saying, hey, I found it on this website. Go here. You got to try this stuff. What you hit on is the importance of a business owner or a business or a corporation understanding that mechanism and being willing to say, you know what? The real value is not in our direct relationships. The real value from a marketing standpoint happens to be our social networks, who we're connected to. And we honestly, each of us, do not have an idea who we're actually connected to, because there's really never been a mechanism to track. I have a friend, and that friend knows 2 other people or 3 other people, and that person is good friends with LeBron James's cousin. And you go, hold on, I'm 4 people from LeBron, or I'm 2 people away from meeting governors and lieutenant governors and presidents, and we don't understand the impact of our influence. So being able to create a mechanism that algorithmically tracks all of that and does reward it has been something that has been absolutely amazing, because you build the machine, right? but then you have to let it behave, and you have to see if it'll perform in the way that it's been designed. And what we've seen over the last 3 years has been nothing short of what some of my colleagues tell me, epic, because we've seen this growth curve. We've grown at over 300 to 400% year over year for the last 3 years. In COVID, right? We've gone from being started here in Nashville, Tennessee, to being in over 70 countries in a short period of time. Logistics all over the world, and it's all done with over 100. We've got over 100, I think 100 plus thousand, 150,000 customer accounts in that time. And we have people making upwards of, our top referral partner made $170,000 last month. We've got people that are making life-changing incomes that have been in the MLM community or have done affiliate models of trying to share stuff, but they're making more money and more rewards than they ever thought they were actually worth, because the mechanism just does what it's supposed to do.
So let's dig into that just a little bit. What is the how does it break down with the percentages for commission? And can you simplify that?
Yeah. So what I did is when creating the system, I worked with my coding team, and I said, look, I'm comfortable paying out 48% of our revenue to our customer base. Okay? Because normally when a company is starting out, you're going to spend 45 to 50% of your money or your income on advertising anyway, right? In order to generate new revenue. So, I came up with what number I was comfortable with, and then we went to coding it out. So what we did is we built, it's a two level initial referral model with additional, you can say, profit sharing bonuses that are infinite. So if you have a friend, or if we're talking, if you tell me about this product and this company and say, hey, go to this site, go to the rootbrands.com/minds and try this stuff. You got to try this zero in product. It's amazing. Boosts dopamine and serotonin. It's freaking outstanding. Try it. I go order it. I get my code. I share with a friend. When you share with me, you get rewarded 15% for whatever I purchase in perpetuity, right? So you make the referral. I'm connected. You're muted. But
yeah, I was just saying the perpetuity aspect, I think, is essential.
It is absolutely crucial, because you created the value. And companies that say, oh, you get the first order. Well, if we look at the lifetime value of a customer, no, that's not a good relationship.
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure that was instilled. So you get 15% of everything that you personally refer. But then when you become an ambassador of the brand by creating two customers through sharing, and it's free to do this, then you tap into a second level of compensation. So if I shared with my friends, I would get 15%, you would get 10.
Yep. And
then we have these additional global universal pools. You could say a pool or a profit sharing mechanism that tracks all of the consumption done from anybody you shared with down everybody that's ever created through that network of consumers, that tracks everything daily and rewards the individual on a daily basis based on the sales volume over the last 30 days. So every day is a new month, basically. And it tracks and pays daily. And then it has additional bonuses based on sharing, and it works.
So you come in, you structure this new referral model, and essentially as soon as you launch it, you start seeing essentially hockey stick growth.
It was pretty much, yeah. It was, it's the beautiful part of watching something organically, right? Because we didn't go out and fake it and spend a ton of money on advertising to say we're the greatest thing ever. We said, you know what? Let's just watch the baby behave. Let's see what it does. So we reached out to our community, and because of my background and my wife's background, she's the architect of everything from a product development side, coming from the biotech industry and everything that she's done. So we talked to those around us, and we had told people what was coming and tried to explain to them what the mechanism was, and then we would just watched it behave. We went from $20,000 a month and in our first month in revenue, where we're like, wow, we're doing great, and you hit 100,000 shortly, and then you hit 200,000 and 500,000, and now 5 million, and you go, wow, this is working, and it's only predicated on outcomes.
Right. And why would you spend ad dollars when you haven't watched your system behave organically? It's like it's a total crapshoot to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the one thing for most businesses is they don't have the goods, right? They don't have a product or a service that is going to hold up to scrutiny. And if you don't have that, then you go to investors and say, okay, I need $5 million because we're going to do all these ads on socials, and we're going to do this and this and this, and we're going to get a 5x ROI because this is what the data already shows. We're going to sell this wing digit, and we're going to have all these idiots that are going to buy it just on the advertising campaign we're going to do. And that's going to be our shot. And maybe we'll wash, rinse, repeat a few times, and we'll see how it goes. Because most products won't hold up to muster if you just said, great, I'm going to put this in people's hands, and if they like it, we're going to let them do it.
Yeah, that's really actually the core point, which is that you can, at the end of the day, the product has to be the foundation.
Yes.
You need no referrals, no matter how good the incentives are in the referral system, without the foundational product, it doesn't really matter. It's still good to have, but that's the separation.
Absolutely. And what Elon's been able to do with Tesla is a great example of that, right? The Tesla community, and I can say that because I own a couple of them, and I love driving them, and they're not designed for the environment. Let's get that out of the way. You get a Tesla to drive the snot out of it. That's why you get one. And what happened is people that own Tesla started telling all their friends, like, oh, and let me take you for a test drive. You got to do this, you got to do that. And they built this community, around that. And if a Tesla performed like a Nissan Leaf, Tesla wouldn't have had the performance that it's had, with the stock, with sales, with revenue, with what they've built out as far as a network, and the fervor that's really, really in their community, right? Of people that are going, hey, what's that?
Does Tesla do referrals?
They actually do. They had what's crazy is there's a couple YouTubers that one guy's won like 4 cars because they had done initial challenges that if someone used your code, you'd get a ticket in a drawing to win a Performance Model 3 or a Roadster, or or you can get credits for mileage. And I did a couple referrals. And I think I got some, I forgot what I got. You get some cool gifts.
But so it's sort of like it's generally shallow. It's not as deep as it could be, but it's still something. Yeah.
And that's the one part that was a big part for me. As I told people, I'm like, look, I want to work with Elon, because imagine a brand like Tesla, that's disruptive in nature. And they said, we've got our showroom, but we've got a couple million customers that love our stuff. What if we just said, okay, our car's $80,000. Our production cost is 30. And we know within that 50 that we have left, usually we're spending 20 on advertising. What if we just took $20,000 of each car sale and put it in a structure that said, hey, everybody, if you refer your friends and they buy a car, they buy this car, we're going to give you $10,000. And then they maybe just tweak that a little bit. They would go batshit, right?
They'd probably
Tesla would crush the market. It would be over.
Yeah.
But it's having that understanding of human behavior and staying in a box, or just saying, you know what, we need to shake this thing up a little bit. Let's do it a little differently.
Why don't we see any major car companies or whoever kind of getting real about these types of incentives? It seems like still relatively rare.
I think part of it is just the systemic issues of who's behind them, right? When you look at the large companies, and they're publicly, the publicly traded entities, you have to understand who's controlling them, right? Who really owns them? It's not, the CEO, the board of directors, they making the decisions. So if and as a publicly traded company, you become a slave to the street. So doing something like this where you're actually giving back, you're actually giving value back to the people that create value, is going to take money from your bottom line. Your profitability, depending upon how you do it, might drop a little bit. It could hockey stick and go exponentially higher, which is usually the instance that happens if you have really good stuff. But some people in a narrow-minded basis are going to look at the pennies and going, wait a minute, on a per sale basis, we can't give this back because we could keep that money, not understanding that if you empower people and you reward people, you can't stop that mechanism. It's the same thing that Napoleon had stated long ago. You give me some ribbon and scrap metal, I'll take over the world. Just don't go into Russia in the winter. Because he knew that people will work for money. They'll die for recognition. But what if you give them both? And you just say, you know what? We've got really cool stuff. You like our stuff? You know what? Here's a way to get rewarded if you tell your friends and you create more value for us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's just bureaucracy, and the numbers scare most, executives because they're not really understanding the incentives, even though really at the end of the day, the only decision you're making is, am I going to give these ad dollars to, huge corporations, or am I giving it to my customers? That's it. You're just moving it from one place to another. And,
Yep.
and the place that you're moving it to is the people who are your most precious, asset.
It's the one that if you had the choice, you're like, who do I want to take with me? I want to take the people that are walking with me, right? My ride or die customers, the people like, you know what? I love this brand, and it could be anything. You're like, this is what I want to get behind. Right. And I think it's the same thing with what you guys are doing of stepping out and saying, you know what? Everything's going to be open source. This is designed for the people, and let the people dictate if they like it, and if they're going to use it, and how they want to use it, and where it goes from there. And then being able to align and this is the real crucial part, and it's the part that I really enjoy, is understanding now in business that we don't have to be secular. Really, the real opportunity, if you have a community of consumers, right, and that adore or like whatever it is you're providing, the greatest thing you can do is figure out how you can provide other mechanisms of value to your community. So bringing different companies and different groups together that can share and create further value is really the main value proposition. And this is going to be done with privately held businesses. It won't be done with publicly traded businesses. They won't do it. But the one way that you do see it is what you hit on. You're seeing companies spend money on advertising, going from a corporation to the beast, because those that own the beast also own the other corporation. So they are just moving their money. They want ours, and they're moving that to get more of it, and they make sure not to give any of it back, because you've created this vacuum. But if you do create an environment that will continually recirculate value, you're going to be able to build empires. And you get to see people win, right? Not corporations. And if you give enough really good people good things, and you give good people money, they do good things with it, right? You don't see, it's like, money and alcohol are the two greatest tests. You give someone enough of either one of them, you're going to see their true colors. So if you're a good person and you like having fun, you have enough alcohol, you're going to be a person that likes to have a lot of fun. You give someone a lot of money, and they're like, you know what? I don't need all of this myself. How can I go help my friends? How can I help build a community? And I think that's really the important part of it. of knowing we don't need. I have friends that are billionaires. Honestly, in this world, you don't need to sit on a billion, right? Being here in Nashville, we're in the center of, the healthcare industry. There's been people that quietly have made billions upon billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. And some of them, the entire music industry in Nashville, which is pretty much the majority of the music industry in the United States now, was actually built on healthcare money. But that happens because you have people that are making money. They're like, I don't need to keep this for myself. What can I do to help develop the arts? What can we do to help build a better community? Because if you look at anybody that has a yacht, I'll tell you this: they don't like to go on the yacht alone. They always want to have people with them. So if that's the case, why keep everything yourself? Why not put it back into people so you can go have fun with friends and they want to come with you?
Absolutely. And so what is the point with referral theory that you think it becomes sketch? Like let's clarify that line.
The flaw has been what you hit on initially, the pyramid scheme, right? The multi-level marketing industry, because of how it became, right? It's a lot like socialism, right? To where if you discuss the concept, and if we just sat and we discussed the concept of socialism, it actually makes really good sense. And you could say, you know what? I could find a place that this could work. But then when you get people involved, it goes to shit. It falls apart. And you're like, this can't work, because then you have people that are like, well, we're overseeing this. And instead of distributing money and making everybody happy, we need to keep that for ourselves. Screw the little guys, let's get fat. And so the concept of that has been bastardized by the multi-level marketing industry, and people see the Ponzi schemes for what they are, people getting hurt financially, all the scams, all that stuff. And what's happened is the population, because of the behavior of that mechanism, looks at everything with a skewed eye of like, oh, is that one of those schemes? Right. Well, no. And it's funny because the concept that initially was created by Amway was designed to just say, hey, if you like our brand and you share it, you'll get rewarded. And they yeah.
Okay.
Long ago.
And I think that the main things that I've seen is like, I think that there's no buy-ins in your system. Not same with mines. I think that makes no sense, totally unnecessary. And then, there's a real product there. Otherwise, yeah, it seems just pure stigma based on essentially the wrong people getting their hands on this type of system before like ethical corporations really caught on. And it just was that's what happened. It was just the wrong people doing it.
Because you had a group of people that understood how to manipulate it, and just decided that they could play games with it, and they made it so where it looks so bad that no one else would want to touch it. When the mechanism itself of the power of social commerce, of just consumers having the ability to share is the most, we know this. It's what you talk about in business. It's like, look, a personal referral, word of mouth marketing is the best form of marketing. It's the most powerful, out there. If you start a pizza shop, you tell your friends, hey, come get a pizza. If you like it, tell everybody to get in here. Right. And I think the desire to innovate and disrupt, and I think it's more about disruption than it is innovation anymore. Right. Because a lot of the infrastructure that's been put in place is designed to put us in boxes. And if you're willing to just say, you know what, let's just blow up in a couple boxes and step outside of that and say, look, we're going to do it this way, and be willing to take the risk. Right. That's the key, because we could have failed. I mean, there was no guarantee that the mechanism was going to work. or I could argue that the products were going to be any good, but we knew that was not true because of what my wife does and what she's made to do, and what she put together. And that was the foundational point of being able to create the mechanism, because we knew we had the goods, right? And as a guy, when you marry a goddess that has a master's in science, a PhD, a PsyD, an EDD, and she did postdoctoral work at Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, and Cornell in pharmaceutical management, nutritional counseling. And she'd been at Pfizer, Alexion, Biogen, IDEC, Johnson & Johnson, UCB, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Janssen, and took all that experience and knowing what was going to happen. This was one of the keys for us, is all the stuff that we've seen over the last 3 years, she knew 20 years ago was coming. And she went back to Harvard for 3 years in 2018, between 18, 19, and 20, to go back and get caught up on everything that was being used scientifically, to then be able to start creating some counters to what was coming, and what we were going to be introduced to, and things that were going to happen, and how to deal with those. But also going forward, her focus was how we reverse aging, and she holds a patent on it. But that was the foundational piece of how do you live well to 130, because we can do 130 without a problem, but you have to make sure that which is destroying us now doesn't continue to, which is the environment. And not just the external environment with the air we breathe, the water we eat, or the water we drink, the food we eat, that which is put in us in different ways, but what's already in us, these environmental toxins, these pollutants, these chemicals, the fungus, the parasites, the bacteria, negative bacteria, viruses, and such that are in us. How do you start to clean up that mess, and then give the body the opportunity to regenerate? And she unlocked that.
Yeah, I mean, longevity industry is exploding for such good
Yeah.
reason. Are you familiar with David Sinclair?
I know the name. Yeah.
So yeah, he also does longevity research at Harvard,
Yep.
and is big on like NMN and resveratrol, and there's kind of this whole group of supplements. I'm kind of curious. So let's go through some of these. So what are we looking at here?
So Clean Slate is really the foundation to everything that we do, and it's really the key to unlocking the process of rebuilding. It's a solution. It'll taste a little bit salty and citricy. That's a combination of bioavailable silica that's derived from nature's most powerful crystal, that is a naturally negatively charged honeycomb structure that she figured out how to break apart without using a bunch of acid and destroying the most special component, which is this bioavailable silica. So you have these little sieves, basically, or little green garbage trucks, if you take a little visual, that will go in and start grabbing onto all the bad stuff, the toxic heavy metals, the mercury, the cadmium, the arsenic, lead, aluminum, the graphene, the viral fragments, the mold spores, the biotoxins that are emitted from different things, the PFAs, the dioxin, if you're in Ohio, that you're worried about now. All that stuff, it'll grab it and scavenge it and allow it to be flushed out. But at the same time, it's delivering the key trace minerals and the silica that's needed for the regeneration process. So that lays the foundation. And then as you're hitting on like resveratrol and such, Restore, so the sachets that you have there, are designed to take care of the gut. So you've got some of those really powerful mechanisms. You hear people talking about neem oil or black cumin seed oil heavily. There's a lot of black cumin seed oil in there, along with resveratrol and D-ribose and curcuminoids, and it just tastes good. But it's designed to kill off the fungus and the parasites in the gut, bring that leaky gut back together, decrease systemic inflammation, and get your gut back in line. Because the key is the gut-brain connection, right? We hear about the vagus nerve, your brain, your heart, your gut, they're all connected. So once you start to clean up that operating system, you get the gut working properly, then it comes down to the real fun part of the conversation, which is neurotransmission, right? It's all about dopamine and serotonin. and the pathways that those two neurotransmitters work throughout, the gut and the brain and the body. So dopamine is the most powerful chemical made, and it'll make you feel amazing. It can make you feel limitless. You don't fatigue for a bit, and performance just becomes fun, and you'll perform at a level that's beyond what you've ever seen before. And we've seen this in elite athletes. But the other side, the serotonin component, can keep you calm and relaxed, so you can be hyper focused and still smooth. But towards the end of the day, you don't want more dopamine, you want more serotonin, because when it's time to sleep, an interesting mechanism takes place, because deep REM sleep is the key to really everything that we are. We have to get into deep REM sleep, right? It's where we dream, it's where we create, it's where we recover, it's where we regenerate. If you're not getting deep REM sleep, longevity is squashed. And part of that comes from your gut. Part of it comes from your pineal gland, which is the light center of the brain controlling your circadian rhythm, as well as the spiritual center of the brain, which is what connects us to light sources. And fluoride calcifies your pineal gland. So clean slate actually will wipe out the fluoride. The bioavailable silica in clean slate will actually feed the little crystalline resonators that are inside your pineal gland to help them recrystallize and become more resonant. But then you get into the chemical aspect, and this is where
just to jump in on one thing you said. So in terms of the calcification of the pineal gland, I've heard that a lot, and intuitively it makes sense. But are there 100% like studies backing up calcification of that gland?
Yeah. And what's been shown, this has been known for over 50 years, that fluoride has a very high propensity to go to the pineal gland. It calcifies that because the pineal gland actually gets a massive amount of blood flow. It gets, on a volume basis, more blood flow than every other organ except the kidneys, and your kidneys are filtering everything. So it's a lot like when you look at other toxic metals. If you look at mercury, lead, and aluminum, they're neurotoxins, right? So they will go to the brain. They'll also get into other tissue and other organs, your kidneys, your liver, your heart, joints and such. But being neurotoxins, they love to go there. Fluoride is going to end up in your pineal gland, or some there, and then ends up in kidneys and liver. And if you look at arsenic is going to have, an opportunity to build up in liver and will destroy your circulatory system because it causes leukemia. And if you understand lead will actually get stored in bone as well as in the brain. And that's where osteoporosis and all of the women's aging issues come from, because it's not your bones getting brittle. It's actually the lead starting to leach back out of bone, back into the bloodstream around 45 to 50. So you have women with risk of osteoporosis, but then they become hormonal, because lead is also a neurotoxin and hormone mimetic. So it mimics estrogen. So you have the extra lead getting into the bloodstream, which mimics estrogen. So women become hormonal. It also being a neurotoxin, it's going to create brain fog. Well, that's been diagnosed as menopause, but it's actually not menopause. It's just the fact that we're polluted and those toxins are being moved around, and that's the effect that they're having on you.
Have you guys done studies with your products?
We've got a ton of different types of analysis and case studies, and because of the network and how our consumers have created this community. We've got physicians. I think we've got 167 physicians all over the world that are tracking data, in outcome data. And this is really the key, is it's all about outcomes, right? If you're not producing outcomes, you're not producing value. And we've seen that with like the post-COVID issues and the post-vaccine issues, that we've got some amazing case studies from a couple doctors that have shown that using these 3 products reverse all the issues in about 30 days. And we've seen that consistently. So that helps people. But you can look at sports performance. Like, we have one of our docs, it's one of the top doctors in Hungary. He oversees the Hungarian Olympic Committee. So he's got elite athletes from all over that he works with. But getting actual real data back and saying, okay, you know what, we've got a world champion in fencing. She's 22 years old. She was in the Olympics last year. She was a world champion. And, you know, she's been training and working with him for years. And, you know, they elite athletes are very consistent in their training regimen because that's what makes you elite. But in this one instance, in the first 2 weeks, we saw her reaction time and quickness improve by 50%. And we're like,
from which product?
From using Clean Slate, Zero In, and Restore, right? Because of the mechanism. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. I was talking to the doc when he gave us the case study. I'm like, hold on. I was a sprinter in college, right? So I was somewhat elite from a performance standpoint. And I know that elite athletes, the only separation comes down to quickness and reaction. That's it. That's what separates the good from great, right? If we look at football and you look at Patrick Mahomes and you go, okay, what makes him so unique is his ability to just snap off something so quick, see things and adjust really quickly, creates an opportunity for him to do some things really uniquely. Or Lamar Jackson just has amazing turnover and he's faster than everybody. If you look at fencing or if you look at basketball, it's the ability to move and have your brain communicate with your extremities just quick and to be able to react. And imagine Steph Curry even having a 10 or a 20% improvement in his reaction time and getting even more focused. The guy dropped 90 a night and not even think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can say too, like tasting both of them, they have this kick which you almost feel like it's instantly doing something. It's not like there's a lot of sort of droppers that you'll take or whatever, and it's just sort of tastes like dead paste.
Yeah.
And this sort of has this taste of like that it's active. That's the best way.
And we've seen that with heart rate variability data, right? So many people are wearing different bands or rings, you know, for tracking heart rate variability. You know, you see it in different sports now, professional sports, whether they're using heart rate monitors on soccer players that they're wearing, or I think basketball players, you know, you have professional basketball teams that are wearing them now. But you've got different tracking mechanisms. And heart rate variability is something that is so valuable because there's so much that can actually be identified from the data that's collected, right? And what we've been able to see is that literally in minutes, and one of our docs is over in Germany. He was the consultant for one of the devices that was done. So he was doing measurements on some of his customers and then also on himself, giving them a sachet of Restore, 2 capsules of Zero In, 10 drops of Clean Slate, doing a baseline, you know, having this analysis done right before, give them the products, wait 20 to 45 minutes and retest them. The shifts that were taking place blew him away. And biological age dropping decades, mental focus shifting, cardiovascular functioning shifting. You can only do that, one, if the products are working quickly, but you also see that the mechanisms are not physical, right? That if you're working with quantum physics, basically, and frequencies and such, it's not just the ingredient itself, it's the energy that's in those, it's the intention that's put into the products of what they're designed to do that's resonating with the body, because this operating system is electrical. It's not physical. We don't have a pump, right? It's all energetic based. It's why we now understand quantum physics is real, string theory, all of that. It's not fake. It's not pseudoscience.
Right. And so what is it about the underlying structure you were mentioning kind of earlier in the show that you think makes it like more of a resonant product?
Honestly, it's the amazing face behind me, you know, of what she knows how to do and what she's done. Because if you haven't been in pharma and biotech, you actually don't know this. They're using frequencies.
Right.
They're using mechanisms that we think are woo-woo, right? But they understand. If you go to Harvard And they don't I don't think they're running their nanotechnology and bioscience engineering program anymore, because they had 19 people in the class and they couldn't find more people to do it. But when you're working at the highest levels of research, and they understand that, they know what to do and how to not only create, specific formulations to get different ingredients to stack of just like making a cake, right? If you use the right amounts of the right ingredients, you get this amazing cake. But if you use the wrong amounts, you just get absolute trash. And that's one of the key components, is knowing how to source the right quality of ingredients, and then which ones you combine in which way. And her background, she's done cloning, she's done molecular design. She worked at Bristol Myers Squibb 16 years ago when they were doing mRNA research on HIV. So she knows how they can construct things, and she took her experience there and knowing what was to come on a bad standpoint, and wanted to take what nature provides us and figured out how to combine, specific ingredients to create really unique outcomes, but at the same time using some of those energetic frequency, harmonics, polarization, love, which is a huge component of putting that intention into each formula, which is in each product. So that's something that every person is getting. You're getting, her intention of what these are made to be. And I think that's something that's so important, because when we look at a lot of products in business, people make things for the sole purpose of making money, right? So the intent of what a widget is made for might not be what it's marketed as, because they're like, oh yeah, we just need to sell a bunch of these so we can make a bunch of money. Well,
yeah. No, I mean, I'm getting some Dr. Masaru Emoto vibes.
Let me show you something real quick. I was going to bring up Emoto, so let me show you something real quick, because I actually just got these last week while we're in Germany. So give me a second. Let me grab these, because we can end with this. Okay. So if you understand Emoto's work, right, we understand what happens with frequency and intention, or words and language on water. So we actually had one of our ambassadors that did that analysis, took each product, put it next to some water. So this is what clean slate looks like, structuring water. This is restore that you just took. This is zero in. Now this is water. This is what it's doing to structure water. This is clean spirits. This is the sibling to clean slate that we're just debuting. This is give me back my youth, which is a collagen and colostrum combination. This is relive greens. This is immune defense shield, which creates NAD. This is the facelift, which is our tea spray. And then this is natural barrier support, which is the vitamin C, D, and zinc combination strategically. And what's fun with these is you look at what's happening with the water, and that you can see the energy coming off of it. That's not from the physical. That's from the energetics, the harmonics, the intention. And what you have to understand with these is that it's not just water in the glass. The earth, our terra firma, we'll look at it that way, is 70% water and 17% silica. Our body is 70% water and 17% silica. So if you're changing the water in the glass, you're changing the water in here the same way. So you're becoming more resonant. You're becoming more energetic. And if you do that consistently over time, you get to see changes. And that can happen in minutes. But if you do it every day for a while, you get a lot better.
Well, I'll definitely track my progress, and yeah, it's been great talking to you. I'm excited to share this with the Minds community. And any last thoughts that you want to bring in?
The journey begins, right? It's the fun part. Try it. If you like it, you share it. If it doesn't hold up to scrutiny, well, this is our last time hanging out.
Good stuff. All right, man. Well, it's been great talking. I feel like we'll do another one when what's the product that I don't have?
We've got to get you some zero in. Yeah, we've got to get some zero in.
Do the zero in, and then we can, maybe that'll be in the after hours segment, and
Yep.
we'll get a little wacky. Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Clayton. Where can people find you?
You can be part of my 6 followers on social media. I think my handle is like the Clayton Thomas. I'm banned on most social platforms. I need to create a Minds account, actually.
Yes, we'll follow up about that. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, we will definitely follow up. So thanks for coming, and see you next time.
Thanks.